And welcome back to the second episode here of the Always Be Building Show. This is the 2024 Rookie Preview, sponsored by Dynasty Football Factory Network. I am Stephen Chalmers. Twitter handle is below. Joined as always by my partner in crime, Ryan Odell. Deli, say what's up to the people.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show. We're continuing the second round. So in case you missed the first episode, we've already covered the first round, Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison, all the way down the line to Brian Thomas Jr. So first round's knocked out. If you missed that, go back, check that one out for us. After you watch this one, of course. I mean, come on, you're already here. That being said, we got to start the second round tonight. How are we feeling tonight, Steve?
I'm good. They said the first round is too easy to talk about. They said it doesn't show off your true talents as a Dynasty football analyst. So we're going to move on to round two, and we're going to attack this thing with confidence as we always do. So if you want to bring it up, let's talk about the ADP tonight, the players we'll be covering.
Yep.
So I have Jonathan Brooks as the 11th player. We're going to do 11 through 20. We got Jonathan Brooks.
Yep.
We got Ladd McConkey. We got Keon Coleman. We got Trey Benson. We got Bo Nix. We got Ricky Pearsall. We got Xavier Legette. We have Adonai Mitchell. We have Michael Penix Jr. And we have Blake Corum. Those are the players we're going to attack tonight. It's a weird round. Honestly, I don't really like this round after 2-5.
I think that's kind of where the community's at too. I've seen a lot of people saying they're trying to trade either back into the third round or forward to get out of like that gray area of the back of the second round. I think it's honestly a little rough.
Honestly, there's some gems in the third round that I really like that I have been getting. So I'd rather trade back or trade for future draft cap after this pick.
Yeah.
But that's just me. We're going to talk about these players. We're going to bring up some trade value scenarios, things like that. Talk about these players, their comps, their skill sets that we like, we don't like, where we think their fantasy value can be moving forward. So let's start with Jonathan Brooks, running back, Carolina Panthers. The first thing I want to bring up, it bodes well for a running back when you're the first running back taken off the board and you're coming off of an ACL injury.
Yeah, absolutely. I was surprised he got drafted that early. I mean, can't really say that it was still a second round, but nonetheless, you see these guys that get injured at the end of the seasons, kind of like he did, and it tanks their value. But yet, Panthers stays, hey, that's our guy. I mean, they clearly don't have anybody at the running back position, so this is the guy they can plant their flag on. I think he's going to get the workload. It's just what can you do with that in this offense?
I'll be honest with you, I really like the moves that the Panthers have made to incorporate future playmakers for Bryce Young. On top of that, another player we'll talk about later on, you bring in Jatavian Sanders out of Texas as well. Dave Canales, they brought in Deontay Johnson. Drafted another player we're going to talk about in this round, Xavier Legette. Free agent guard Robert Hunt, a big offseason. On top of these, there's a lot of things that I like about this prospect, Jonathan Brooks. I do like the fact that he has such a minimal college workload that the touch rule that you have when it comes to your prospect breakdown doesn't come into effect. He has a very minimal college workload to start.
Yeah.
Fortunately, the ACL tear, but we've seen a lot of running backs have ACL tears coming into the league and succeed.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, it took him that long to get a starting job. He played behind guys. I mean, Bijan Robinson alone, Rashawn Johnson, he got kind of buried in this, but that's good for his NFL talent. I mean, it's something I've talked about for a long time on these shows is the workload wears down eventually, and it happens to all running backs. They hit those high touches, and then boom, injury after injury after injury. And it's something you really have to monitor. But like you said, Brooks doesn't have a whole lot going on.
Yeah. Another thing I like to bring up, I'm not saying he's better, obviously. That's not what I'm saying here.
Yeah.
But in his one lone year as a starter, up until the point of injury, he was scoring on average every 14.9 touches. You go back and look at Bijan's last year. Bijan was scoring on average at 16.2 touches per game. Yeah. So I'm not saying that. He was very efficient in his role at Texas. They knew what they had. They utilized his skill set very well. And he was explosive with his skill set. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful 3-down back, do it all back. It shows the speed, the versatility, the explosiveness, the athleticism, natural hands, fluid pass catcher, great in run protection, great in pass protection. Those are the things that stood out to me when I was looking at his profile. And this is a player that I think should be going in the first round.
Yeah. I've seen in most drafts have been in you. He's been the back end of the first at that 10 spot ahead of Brian Thomas Jr. I think for me too, that's probably the right call. I mean, if you can get a running back, they're honestly a premium position now. So if you can land one like a Jonathan Brooks, who's obviously going to be the workhorse in this team, go get him. But that being said, what do you really expect Jonathan Brooks as a player to finish in Dynasty this year? Are we still talking like, are we doing like top 20, like 15, 20 range, or can you push higher than that?
No, I can't expect that, especially coming off an ACL tear. I think you have to tamper expectations as well. I do think that he has earned top 12 Dynasty running back status. I do think that he is entrenched in that. The running back position is a mess going into this offseason. But I do think his value will fluctuate. I do think you could see him go from 12 to 18 to 15 after a couple games towards the end of the year. He's not 100% healthy. Let's be honest here. Yeah. He is coming off an ACL tear. No matter what, no matter how far modern medicine has come when it comes to the pro athletes, not many running backs can come back and give you an AP-like performance after an ACL tear.
Yeah.
A lot of people aren't Adrian Peterson. That's not what I'm expecting. I'm expecting moderate usage, but I'm also expecting him to be more of a 100% go towards the end of like fantasy championship time.
Yeah, I agree. Keep him fresh, let him rock out, and then if there are any talent to make a push, then
sure,
let him roll.
Yeah. Got a comment coming in. Are any of these running back prospects better than Breece Hall? Absolutely not.
Absolutely that nod too. This is an old, for those who don't know, used to be a partner with us in this podcast. And he was in it when Steve was all in on Breece Hall before anybody else was. And Frankie's still to this day.
Yep, no, nobody's better than Breece Hall. That is not this running back class, not even close. We talk about 2025 class. Yeah, we're cooking up something.
Yeah, I don't even know then. We'll talk about that next year, or maybe in a few months. Yeah. Who knows?
So the last point, like you said, I said, Dave Canales is doing a great job down there. I'm very excited to see how this offense transitions from 2023 to 2024 with the Panthers. I'm excited to see Bryce Young's development. I think that's another huge factor when it comes to these pieces that are added to the offense that people aren't taking account for. The transition of Bryce Young from 2023 to 2024, working with a QB guru, saved Baker Mayfield's career, obviously, over in Tampa Bay last year. I was very excited to see that. I'm excited to see him with Bryce Young in 2024. Next player we got. You got him in your draft, Ladd McConkey, wide receiver out of Georgia, headed to the Chargers.
Love the landing spot. I mean, you can first of all talk about how, you would imagine he's probably the wide receiver one in this offense. They have Josh Palmer, Quentin Johnston. I think neither have really done a whole lot for the league. But I do think Ladd will probably run out of the slot in this offense. But I think that's a good thing for him. I think it's where he's a little bit undersized, so I think that bodes well for his game. But he's a hell of a route runner. He knows how to find the open space in the field, and that's some things he could do in the slot and be successful with, especially because I figure if you think about it, this is a run-first offense, so when they're passing the ball, they're going to be looking for quick outs. And I think that's going to be where Ladd is utilized the most in this offense. I like Ladd. Front of the second, all day.
I do.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Ladd. So what comes with me with Ladd, I have some questions here, but I have a lot of positives. First off, like you said, love the landing spot.
Yeah.
The number that stands out to me, 395. That number is the amount of vacated targets in the Los Angeles Chargers organization going into 2024. That's a lot of targets. That is a lot of targets. And Justin Herbert has to find his number one target. He has to find his guy.
Yeah.
You already mentioned Josh Palmer. You already mentioned Quentin Johnston. Other than that, I don't know. Yeah. I do truly believe that Ladd McConkey has a chance to be the number one wide receiver from week one on. I think he has a perfect fit, perfect scenario. If you think about his skill set, he is masterful in the slot. He's masterful in the quick routes, the short to intermediate areas. Elite athlete that a lot of people don't talk about. Tested very well at the combine. Very well. On top of that, Separation is not a problem for this dude at all.
No.
Can create separation and create it quick. Get the ball in his hands, watch him work. I know he's undersized. They said he weighs in about 185. I truly do not believe he's 185.
Yeah. Another thing I want to point out for Ladd McConkey here is a lot of people, we think Jim Harbaugh, we're thinking run first offense. But in his time with the 49ers, his wide receiver ones had success as a wide receiver 1-2 fringe in fantasy. I mean, his finishes each season with Crabtree and Bolden were wide receiver 33, 14, 15, and 21, with quarterbacks like Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick. Now, no disrespect to either of those two, but Justin Herbert is a far superior quarterback than those two. And I think if he does win that number 1 role and gets these targets that we think he can get up there. And I would definitely hamper expectations, probably thinking more towards the 21 range than the 15 range as far as his rookie season goes. But I think going forward, if he can win that job, win the team over, you got a good rookie in Ladd McConkey.
So the question I have for you, I have 2 questions actually. The first question I'm going to ask you, I do believe the answer is target competition. But Ladd McConkey never broke the 800 receiving yard mark at the University of Georgia. Why?
Well, you look at the way they played college. Well, one, he played with Brock Bowers, who demanded targets in that offense. And they don't pass the ball a lot in the first place. I mean, even with Stetson Bennett, who was it before that? I couldn't even tell you off the top of my head. But it's like they get run first, and then you have Brock Bowers looming over you. It's tough for him to find a window to be successful. And I get, you'd love to obviously see him get to at least 1,000 yards once. I'm not disagreeing with your point, but it's like, where's the opportunity for him at Georgia when you have guys like that looming over you?
No, I agree. I believe the target competition and the way the offense was tailor-made for the SEC truly didn't bode well for Ladd McConkey's success individually. But I would say with Ladd, there was no true breakout that we look for in the college game. Yeah. So that's why I bring this up. I also bring up the fact that, like I said, he weighs in at 185, but I know he's not 185. There's no way he's 185 pounds.
You don't look 185.
Yeah. So that's the question. I know that we say that as the game has evolved for these smaller receivers, we have less and less worry for them when it comes to the physicality of the NFL game. But for how small Ladd is, that has to be a question mark.
Oh, it is. I mean, he's a little bit undersized. I'll be the first to own up to that. But you see guys like Tank Dell and maybe even Xavier Worthy finding success in these offenses. Well, Tank sure as hell did. It's tough. I mean, the concern is obviously there, but like you said, the game's become soft. They can't really hammer these guys like they used to, so they can kind of get away with being a little bit smaller. I mean, you can't even hip drop people anymore.
Right.
So it's
and I agree. I agree with you.
Yeah.
There's no question that the game has become a softer version of itself.
Yeah.
Lastly, is Ladd McConkey a top 30 dynasty wide receiver?
Yeah, I put him around that area. I don't have the list in front of me, obviously, but he's got to be sitting around that area. Let me see if I can't pull my rankings real quick. Give me 1 second. I have it 2 tabs over.
Well, he's in that weird range with me, like where Xavier Worthy, Brian Thomas Jr. fall, and then you have the older vets, the Cooper Kupps, the Mike Evans, the Devontae Adams, those guys.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. In my rankings, I have McConkey at 30, and then a tier above some of the older guys like Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams.
So would you be willing to come off a Ladd McConkey situation type player where you believe he can thrive for a long, long time with this Chargers offense, or would you rather have a given production, elite production, like a Mike Evans type guy?
Well, you figure we're talking dynasty here, so age obviously comes into account. I mean, Mike Evans is probably going to have maybe 2 seasons left, but you're going to get elite talent out of that. I would say if I'm in a situation where I'm trying to win now and push for a championship, I think I'm just going to take Mike Evans. But if I'm building, I think Ladd's got a real chance to find a crease in this offense and just roll with it. But if I'm trying to win now, I can't lie to you. I probably would rather prefer a Stephon Diggs or Stephon Diggs, Mike Evans in the same area, just so I can make a push. I mean, if we're being honest, Debo Samuel's pretty close to that same range. Obviously, you have to move up more to go get a guy like Debo, but I would probably rather move for a vet if I'm trying to win now.
Okay. I was just asking because he's one of those players that's on that fringe that we like to talk about, and we talk about it all the time. Like young, unproven rookie with high upside. And the upside, especially during draft season, it really, really, really correlates and it really gets spicy. So, that's just a good question there to ask.
No, for sure. What do you stand on that? Because I think it's a solid point. I mean, you're moving a proven vet for a back end or a front end second round pick.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Once you start to put value to the older players.
Yeah. I will say in general, I know we're talking about rookies right now. I'll say generally, some of these older guys that are so proven and solid, like you can get them dirt cheap because no one's really in on it. And at the same time, you're going to get wide receiver 2 production guaranteed. I get it's a smaller window, but the hate on vets in Dynasty is way too real. Just a small tidbit about vets, but moving on.
So the next player on the ADP list would be Mr. Keon Coleman. So as I was preparing for the show tonight, this is one of the hardest evaluations that I had to do. And I am going to say this. I do not agree with the ADP on Keon Coleman. I do not agree at all.
Wow. Bold statement that you got there. I mean, obviously you love the landing spot. Lands in Buffalo with Josh Allen when we just saw Stephon Diggs exit. Now, we don't expect him to be anything like Diggs, right? But you figure he's got a pretty solid role in this offense out the gate.
He does. He projects to, yes.
Yeah.
But we all know that these guys with multiple red flags in these certain areas that we're going to refer to, it is true boom or bust.
It's fair. It's fair. Well, I'll say, I know that your main concern, and I'll just get it out of the way. Your main concern with him is separation, right? He won on contested balls way too much in college.
Not just
I get that's your stick, but we said the same thing about Drake London when he was coming out. And we've seen Drake London kind of carve his role into the NFL. Or do you think that Keon Coleman's probably worse at separation than Drake London was in college?
Keon Coleman is nowhere near the athlete that Drake London is.
All right. That's all I needed to hear. I was just curious. I know that was a hot take about London a while ago. I didn't know if you thought that maybe potentially Keon Coleman could break that mold. No?
Drake London is not even close.
Fair enough.
I love Drake London, by the way. Neon Keon. So I just want to point this out. We talk about Keon Coleman, great landing spot, not much wide receiver depth. Added Chase Claypool, added MVS, Curtis Samuel, Khalil Shakir still here. The big part of the Bills' offense that people don't want to talk about that is very underrated for these two is Kincaid and James Cook. This is where your offense lies. This is the heart and soul, the bread and butter of what they want to do. So, Keon Coleman, can he become the third bird on the pecking order? I don't think so. Like I said, I've never liked Keon Coleman. I'm never going to preach to you a player that I do not believe in. And these are the reasons why.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you some positives because every player has positives. First off, I want to point out the size and the athleticism for Keon Coleman. He has some of the strongest hands in this class.
Yep.
He is one of the best receivers when it comes to catch radius. He's one of the best players when it comes to contested catches, 50-50 balls, going up and playing the ball at its highest point. And he's one of the strongest guys. He is a strong beast. I will give him credit when credit is due. But when it comes down to it, unrefined route runner, lack of separation off the line of scrimmage, lack of get up and go, cannot hit his top speed quickly at all. We know he didn't test well at the combine. He's not great in that area, in those areas.
Yeah.
And underwhelming college production all the way around. The only thing that stands out to me was the 18 times he scored in the last 2 years. That's it.
That's it. I mean, that's all fair points.
He has a under 2 yards per route run. Under 2 is a 1.9 career yards per route run in college football.
Yeah, I mean,
N'Keal Harry wasn't that bad.
So talk about N'Keal Harry. It's a
I'm just
soft
saying.
spot for some people out here.
Just saying.
Yeah, but I mean, once again, we're stuck with the same thing with Ladd. Is like he never cracked 800 yards. Given it was Florida State, and maybe the game doesn't really bode well for receivers at Florida State, but 18 touchdowns. I mean, this gotta mean something, right? I mean, you gotta at least give him.
Sure.
He's a solid red zone guy.
Okay.
Hey, I'm saying, you don't get 18 touchdowns in 2 years.
Can I give you another number?
By being,
Can I give you another number since you wanted to know? 5 of those touchdowns out of the 18 came in the red zone.
Okay. Stand corrected.
This is how much me and Keon Coleman do not get along.
You got straight, love for Keon Coleman on this guy.
No, and I'm sorry, guys. I know Ryan may have a difference of opinion when it comes to this player, and that's fine. By all means, I'll let Ryan preach his stance.
Whoa. Hands up. I'm not the biggest Keon Coleman fan either, but I will say landing spot changes it a little bit for me. Because
this was a guy that this was a guy that you and I had pushed up our second round.
Yeah.
Now Buffalo comes into play here, and we're talking about this guy at pick 13.
Yeah, that's fair.
Sometimes you have to just believe your process here.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I don't love the talent either, but Josh Allen's a hell of a player. That's all I'm going to say. He's a hell of a player. He can make magic happen.
Coleman plus Brooks or Dunze? I'm going to go with Dunze.
Then you get a little bit of value in there, Brooks, but I probably still lean on Dunze. Yeah, it's definitely gonna take a year for Dunze to like settle into his role, given you've got 2 animals on either side of him. But next year, who knows? The whole thing could change. I think Keenan Allen's got 1 year there, and then he's gone. Well, we hope.
Quote unquote, should be.
Should be, yeah. I mean, he will be 33 next year, so
sure will.
Yeah.
Lastly, before we get off Keon Coleman, I just want to say that, just so you guys realize how much of a contested catch beast he is and how much he relies on it. 34% of his targets were contested catch or spectacular catch-esque. A lot.
It's a good amount. Yeah, I can't lie.
Next player on the list would be my favorite running back, Mr. Trey Benson.
Somebody I'm excited to talk about.
Yes. I did not think that he got the draft capital he deserved. Pick 66, not a bad pick. Not what I thought. I thought he was a second-round player, not a third-round player. But great landing spot in an ascending Cardinals offense. Me and you have talked about it. The Arizona Cardinals offense is looking pristine. I am excited to see this young offense. You still have James Conner, a running back, a veteran to learn from, who has had a lot of success in the league and a lot of success in this offense.
Yep.
Outside of injury, James Conner has not finished less than a running back 2 in his whole time in Arizona. He has been awesome. And I do believe that Trey Benson in this offense has an opportunity to thrive for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I mean, we'll talk about the attributes that Trey Benson has and how good of a runner he is and all this fancy stuff. But I just want to say really quick, I think, James Conner looming is not great, right? Like, he's a proven back for this team. But that being said, you touched on it before. This is a growing offense that's has a good shot to make a playoff push if everybody stays healthy. Now, you get into week, 10, 11, James Conner getting cooked up. You got a young rookie sitting behind him with fresh legs ready to go. And I think that's my thing with Trey Benson is in the middle of this second round here is a great value because I really think end of the year he can have one of those rookie year breakouts in the late end of the season where it actually matters when you're pushing for your playoff push in fantasy. And I just think it's going to get to a point where James Conner's going to be a little bit gassed out and they're going to say, all right, Trey, get in there, get the job done for us.
Yeah. So I'm not sold on the gassed out part, but I am sold on the fact that if you're pushing for a playoff game, a wild card spot, however you get into the playoffs, I am under the assumption that there are times where your lead back needs to be spelled and needs carries taken away from him to stay healthy on the field. There's not many true workhorse running backs left, and I consider James Conner a workhorse back, maybe due to the fact of lack of competition that's been in the backfield for a while now. But I do consider James Conner to be a workhorse back that's very undervalued in Dynasty. Absolutely. But in comes Trey Benson, a 6 foot, 215 running back with 4.39 speed. Those guys don't just walk around this earth very often.
No. No.
They're big boys. That's a big boy.
You go back at it. He was the number one running back in his class when he was coming out.
Yes.
So talent's always been there.
And again, another thing that we'd like to talk about. This is Ryan's green flag when it comes to running back. He only has 316 carries in his time in college.
There you go, baby.
and in the 2 years at Florida State, he scored 23 times. You want to talk about Keon Coleman? This man scored 23 times.
Yeah.
And as we break it down and you watch the clips and you watch the tape of Trey Benson, speed, size, athleticism, the biggest thing I love is the burst. I think he has the best first step burst in this class.
Yeah.
His first step, once the ball's in his hands, he's gone. Love it. I love it. I love his decisiveness. I love his patience. I love his natural hands. There's so much about his process, about his about his profile that stands out to me. The only thing that I saw that I didn't like was pass protection. I saw some weaknesses in the pass protection. And I know your QB's Kyler Murray. Your QB's Kyler Murray, who was a franchise guy signed to a contract. You know how important it is to keep Kyler Murray upright.
Yep. And I honestly think that's why James Conner stuck around for so long. Given he is 29, he's older back. I mean, normally it's like, all right, let's get rid of these guys. But year in, year out, James Conner. That's the first time they're bringing competition. So obviously they're –
Come on, man. You give me a chance to bring this back. You protect Big Ben. You protect a Hall of Famer. You know what I mean? You got to be good.
There you go.
Should have gone to Dallas in the second.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. I was surprised.
I was surprised as well. Yeah. Very surprised. But, hey, Zeke's back.
That's not something to get excited about.
Zeke's back.
I think Dallas 100% dropped. When I saw that pick coming up, I thought in my head 100%. And I don't mean to throw any guys' face in the chat here, but I thought 100% it was going to be Trey Benson going to Dallas, and they found their rookie, and we can move forward. But instead, let's bring ancient Zeke back.
Yeah, let's bring Zeke. Yeah. Hey, I will say though, last 6 weeks of the year, running back 13. Like Trey Benson, but not the landing spot for contender. Conner was very good last year. Agreed. Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. Most contenders, though, are willing to trade these picks. These picks don't matter to contenders. I understand. That's why the taxi process is also a beautiful thing in Dynasty. If the taxi process isn't incorporated into your league, I think it should be. In 2025, I don't see a way that Trey Benson isn't earning significant carries in this offense.
Right.
Trey Benson is going to be a piece of this offense. And I believe is a piece that is worthy of a stash.
Definitely worth the stash.
Yes.
For sure. You think about it, James Conner will be third next year. I mean, he signed his rookie contract. He's got 4 years to pan out. Eventually, whether it be the end of this year or the following, it's going to be Benson's season. I think getting him in the middle of the second round is money. Even if you're a contender, put him on your taxi, let him sit down there for a little bit and bring him up, and you're good to go.
I believe the waiver wire process is a big key to winning your fantasy championships. And I believe that Trey Benson will have a role at some point.
Yeah.
It's got to be Zeke. If I'm looking to contend, it's got to be Zeke. And you can get Zeke really cheap.
What are you getting Zeke for? A third or a fourth?
I'll give a third for Zeke. I mean, honestly, we talk about these veteran running backs. Why not?
Yeah, why not? But
in your league, I would give a third round pick for Zeke. No question.
Yeah, a third for a rental running back for a season.
Yeah. Yeah, Zeke.
Yeah.
People may not like it. The numbers aren't going to look good, but Zeke is going to be a running back too.
Something tells me that might not be the case. But for value's sake, I sure hope so. I mean, he is the RB1 there, sadly.
Yep.
I don't think Rico Dowell is ready for that role. And tough.
All right. ready for some Bo Nix?
Yes and no.
I just want to say,
he's a guy I have mixed feelings for Bo Nix. I'll let you kick off Bo Nix.
the more I've dove into the Bo Nix situation in Denver, I have become more of a fan of the value. I think where you are taking him in these Superflex drafts is underrated.
Yeah.
A first-round pick, I know me and you, as we were watching the draft that night, we were so amazed by where the QBs went and their landing spots. Teams were reaching for quarterbacks that didn't need to reach for quarterbacks. But Bo Nix, nonetheless, is a first-round pick to Denver Broncos, a situation and a team in desperate need of finding a franchise quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
A desperate need.
Yeah.
Under Sean Payton, every QB he's played for has increased in fantasy points per game. Jameis Winston, Trevor Siemian, and Russell Wilson. Last year, Russell Wilson was QB9, averaged 17.7 fantasy points per game.
And they still ship him out the door. Here's my shtick with Bo Nix before I get into the good stuff with him. He's like, especially at Oregon in the last 2 seasons, primarily a short intermediate passer. I mean, his average yards per attempt was 9.6. So he's not really getting the ball too far. More of like a safer end quarterback. But that being said, Sean Payton has doubled down on this being his guy. He's even gone on press conferences saying that they were trying to bait the Vikings to trade up to go get J.J. McCarthy because they wanted Bo Nix all along. Now, this is a guy, they're locked in on Bo Nix in Denver. So maybe they're seeing something I'm not, and they got a plan for him. And Steven's touched on it already, but I'm going to reiterate this again. In Superflex leagues, if you can get a quarterback, even top 25 in the second round, I think you do it all day. Every year you have quarterbacks go down or all that stuff. I'm not in love with Nix, but the value is definitely there.
There's a lot of positives I like, but I do just want to reiterate one thing. That being the transfer from Auburn to Oregon saved his career. Last year, we saw Bo Nix finish as a Heisman finalist, something that never would have happened at Auburn. He just was not in the right scheme fit for him. It did not translate to any type of success at Auburn. Yeah. And I know the roster was abysmal. It was abysmal at Auburn. But there are some things I like. High football IQ, arm strength, mobility, can scramble. He was the second best QB at avoiding the sack. He had a 1.2% sack rate. That was 93rd percentile in the country. He had an 87 flat QBR, also a 93rd percentile in the country. That is awesome. Bo Nix, those numbers have to stand out. They have to stand out.
Yeah, 100%, especially the sack rate. That's the number I saw that absolutely blew my mind. Kid's got pocket presence. No doubt about that. And you touched on it already, and so did somebody in the comments here. But sneaky good in the scramble game. Honestly, he is. We'll see how he does. He gets paired up with Troy Franklin, who is his college guy, and he's got Cortland Sutton and a few other smaller weapons. So, I don't know. Bo Nix, what do you think he finishes before we get into this question?
Finishes as like a QB overall this year?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's honest and fair as an evaluation for Bo Nix to say he will not be a top 20 quarterback this season.
Yes.
I think that's a fair evaluation just based off of the talent around him.
Yeah.
This Denver Broncos team is not good. They're not talented at all. They are a truly rebuilding roster. And there's not a whole lot when it comes to the skill position guys. You're gonna look at them and say, man, that guy's gonna boost Bo Nix value.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cortland Sutton will be gone.
For sure. Javonte Williams, ever since that knee injury, hasn't been the same running back he was in
Right.
college.
Right.
Not a whole lot going on around him.
So with the negatives, there are three things. First being that he'll be 2024 as a rookie. Or he'll be 24, not 24. He'll be 24 as a rookie. Relatively old. He was that fifth-year guy. There's only two fifth-year guys that really stand out to me as successful. One being Dan Marino, the other being Joe Burrow. So,
unicorns. These guys are unicorns.
Can the trend continue? I will say, for how we talk about his ability to elude the pocket and to escape presence and pressure, his footwork does need improvement in certain areas, especially the 5-step drops, 3 to 5-step drops. I noticed that it was kind of rough and needs to be cleaned up, but we also said the same thing about a couple other QBs throughout their time. These things can be worked on. But the big thing that you had mentioned, average depth of target.
Yeah.
30% of his passes were behind the line of scrimmage last year.
Right. Not something you want to see going into the league, to be honest with you. I mean, I get that's Oregon's scheme and everything, but at the same time, gotta think that they're doing it for a reason, right?
I don't hate his arm strength.
Okay.
I do not.
That's where I think I struggle with him, is the arm strength isn't all the way there for me. I'm not saying he can't succeed. I think he can be a solid game manager, but I think that's going to be the type of player that he is. I don't think he's going to be a guy that's going to push the ball down the field every drive and try to make
he's a smarter
30, 40. Yeah, exactly.
I don't think he's Chad Pennington, who has one of the worst arms I've ever seen for a starting quarterback. But I don't think he's Brett Favre either. I'm not saying that. I think he has a conscience in the middle. I think he lives in the middle.
Yeah.
I don't think he can make every throw on the field. No. And I don't think he can fit every throw into the tightest of windows like we see Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and these guys do. But I think his arm's suitable.
Oh, he'd definitely get by with what he has. I'm not saying that. It's just, that depth target thing it's a killer for me. But nonetheless, I don't want to dwell on the negative too much. I know we already hated on Keelan Coleman enough. I don't want to throw too much shade on Bo Nix.
How much is Nix's value boosted with Troy Franklin and the Oregon connection? DFF guys love Troy Franklin, and by God, DFF guys, I mean me. Yeah, we're on the same boat. I love Troy Franklin. I love
Troy Franklin.
Love him. I love the pairing. I believe that Troy Franklin will be on the field early and often. I love me some Troy Franklin.
Troy Franklin will be on the field probably day one, just because they don't really have a whole lot. Mims, I think, has a chance to finally make that jump. Finally, we'll see. I've always kind of had a thing for him when he was coming out as a rookie. We'll see if he can get going. But yeah, Sutton, and you got Troy Franklin coming in. He's not fighting a whole lot going on.
Sutton will be dealt.
Yeah, Sutton.
It's a matter of time. So, Ricky Pearsall. This is a player that in the second round, third round, where we were getting him in the pre-draft process, we loved him. First round draft capital has to stand for something, as we and you both said.
Yeah.
But the landing spot is brutal. It is brutal.
Yeah, just to get into it even more, I mean, it's rough to carve out a piece of this offense. I mean, you look at it between Debo, Ayuk, CMC, and Kittle. Those four players accounted for 79% of Brock Purdy's targets. That's going to leave our boy Pearsall with 21% to work with, and that's not something I'm stoked about. I love the talent. Me and Steven are big Pearsall guys, especially when we're getting him in the third round. I think that's great value, but he's been pushed up now into a team that doesn't think he has immediate role in. I think it would take a departure of either Ayuk or Debo for Pearsall to find a window in this offense. It's rough for me and Pearsall, because I love the talent and I want to take the chance on him, but it's like, how long am I going to be waiting for him to pop into the scene in San Francisco with all his weapons?
I took that chance in your draft. So I traded, but I also got him in the third round. I also got him at 3-4. I didn't get him at player overall 16. I got him in a 10-team standard. Whatever 3-4 translates to. It's a lot cheaper than the 16th overall pick, is what I'm saying in these drafts. But me and you had talked about it. It is rough, but I do also want to bring up the fact that the San Francisco 49ers are in cap purgatory. Very badly. Very badly. Yes. So Brandon Ayuk, I do not see being signed long-term. Me and you had discussed this as well. I do think he has a role to possibly be a wide receiver too in this offense. And honestly, I think he is talented enough. I think he showed a lot at Florida. A lot.
Yeah.
Athleticism's off the charts. Solid athleticism. Honestly, and we talk about when it comes to reliability and reliable hands, I believe he has very reliable hands, and he's very underrated in that area when it comes to the talking about of these players. His hands are crazy. His catch radius is crazy.
That's what I was going to say.
And his creativity when it comes to getting off the line of scrimmage and his routes and the way he pairs them together is underrated as well.
Yeah. I think the big difference, and I think I already know the answer to your question, is probably draft value, but I think he's also around the same size as the Lad McConkey. And I get it's probably a 6 or 7 pick difference here. We're talking. But I hear you talking highly of Pearsall. You think he can overcome his size the same Lad can?
He is bigger than Lad McConkey. So I just want to say that he's a little bigger. I do believe he can overcome his size, but he also gets to play with one of the most creative offensive coordinators / coaches in the game.
Shanahan, mastermind.
And I love how, and the last thing I want to bring up, I love how he was used in his versatility at Florida. Talk about over 20 carries in his career. We're talking about over 16 career punt and kick returns. It's just beautiful. The only thing that we talk about, the thin frame, that's another thing we have to bring up with Ricky Pearsall. And we have to bring up the fact that he struggles versus physical defenders. He played outside. Lad McConkey did not. He played outside. He has alignment versatility as well. So, and he thrived. I think that brings up an argument for him over Lad McConkey. It's just a situation doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And we got a comment coming in here if you want to bring it up. But I mean, he brings a solid point. If Ayuk and Samuel had been traded, and I was just talking about this a second ago, if one of them was out right now, I'd be buying Pearsall all over the place. No problem.
Yes.
And personally, I try not to speak for the people in these podcasts, but for me, he's 100% worth the investment right now at the value he's at. Even, I mean, obviously I said I'd rather have him the third, but I think it's anybody. You see the rise because he goes to the 49ers. But he's a guy that can win to wait out in the taxi squad, 100%.
Hey, I got him in your league.
Yeah. Yeah, he sure did.
So, and you're right, Chad. And this is why we talk about the cap purgatory for the San Francisco 49ers all the time. This is a team that is in the biggest win now window in the league. They have a 2-year span. If it doesn't happen, something is going to happen. They're going to blow it up somewhere.
Yeah.
And I don't think Ayuk is there in 2025 either. I could see him being traded this year too. Like I said, the cap purgatory is crazy for the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah.
Agree here as well. So as we write these show sheets, there's players we easily talk about. The next player is not very easy. I'll be honest with you. It'd be Xavier Legette, South Carolina.
Yeah. Yeah. So this guy's, for me, he's a guy in this whole process, and it's not a secret for me if you've been following us for any time now. I've been wanting to be a believer in Xavier Legette, but he's got some negatives for sure. I mean, you look at it, typically you want to see at least a breakout season for a player before his 5th year in the league. I mean, that's something. It took till age 22 against college competition to have a full breakout. Now, given he's had some bad things happen throughout his college career, some misfortunes here and there, but I don't love to make like excuses for guys. That being said, he is an absolute freak. He's the closest thing to DK Metcalf since DK Metcalf. He was no way he should be running the 40 time he did at his size and weight. I think he could be a weapon, but I think he's a lot further away than I like to admit to actually being a legitimate guy in the league.
Yeah. So with Xavier Legette, I like to bring up the fact that before the draft had happened, he's a first-round pick to a team desperate of wide receiver production. Desperate. And we bring up Jonathan Mingo last year. I do think Xavier Legette is a better overall player than Jonathan Mingo was. But everybody said we had to know who Jonathan Mingo was. Had to. Rising up draft boards last year. It's the same thing. I do think Xavier Legette is a better player. But sell me on Xavier Legette. That's what I'm trying to do to the people. And I have a hard time doing it because you said because you said of the fact he's a fifth-year breakout. We know he's had some misfortunes, but if you could just use his 2023 production, he'd be a top 20 pick.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I'd see that probably 2 years sooner. But what he did last year, pretty impressive with Spencer Rattler. Got to give it to him.
Yes, and there's a lot of refinement needed for Xavier Legette's game.
Yeah.
I will give you credit when it comes to this. Speed, size, athleticism, contested catch skills, ball, contested catch radius, hands. He's strong. Those things are elite traits. He has it. But when it comes to the route tree, when it comes to the overall refinement of his route running, his release off the line of scrimmage isn't great. There's a lot of things that stand out as red flags as well. And I think this is one of those boomer bust guys.
He's big boomer bust. But then again, you think about it, if we're looking at 2.9 ADP here. 2.8, 2.9?
2.7.
2.7. I think after the 2.5 we touched on before, you're taking dart throws at guys. I think if you can look at it and say at least he's athletic, maybe you don't hate it. I mean, I did some research on this. I did an article for DFF. These guys in the second round don't have a great hit rate in the league. So you kind of typically bet on talent here. And it took a while for the Jet. I don't know if I'm like all the way in on it or not. But that being said, he's probably going to be the wide receiver too in this offense, whether we like it or not. He's got Deontay Johnson.
Long term, yeah.
Yeah. Deontay Johnson, you add Brooks, take a little bit away, but same time, Bryce Young's got to be throwing the ball somewhere.
Adam Thielen, baby.
So Adam Thielen. I mean, you saw that in the beginning of last year. He went crazy at 32 years old. So
wide receiver 17 finish.
Yeah. I think he was as high as wide receiver 7 at one point.
I think he might have been higher. Great. But you get the point.
Yeah.
He's a piece. He's a piece that they wanted in Carolina. And that's great. That's great to be coveted like that. That's great. Coaching staff wants you. They want to work with you. They want to refine your skills. I do think those elite traits can pop. I really do.
Yeah.
I really do think that in the perfect situation, those skill sets can be used and highlighted in certain areas.
Yeah. I mean, I like to see it play out. I'm actually excited. I'll take a dart throw at him if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah. You said DK Metcalf-esque, and you are correct. Anybody that big.
I mean, it's his play style. I don't mean to sit here and tell you that he's DK Metcalf because I think obviously DK is a better player, but that's the game that he brings to the table.
Yeah, I'm not saying, like you say, we're not saying he's DK, but he has that same size, strength, speed, things like that. They stand out. Who's next? We have Adonai Mitchell. This is another player that brings up question mark.
Yeah.
So Adonai Mitchell, pre-draft process, was talked about as a first-round pick. And then the medical thing happened, the diabetes, the fact that he brought up, is he uncoachable when he's in those spells with his diabetes and things like that?
Right.
And then people said when he is right, his 100%, his head is in it 100%, he is locked in, he's focused, and he's worried about nothing but football. And that's the kind of guy I want as a coach. I want that guy.
Right.
I don't want the guy whose head's out of it due to the fact of a medical condition. And that has to bring some up.
It's a tough reality for him because, I mean, it's obviously a concern. His diabetes, I'm sure he's been dealing with it for longer than we give him credit for. I mean, he's been playing football for a while now, and he's always dealt with it. He's been successful with it so far. But I think he still has assets he needs to work on, and becoming coachable is a big part of that next step, especially coming into the NFL, that he needs that 100%. But I think he did get a little bit blown out. He fell pretty far.
Yeah, 48,
he
pick
fell
48
pretty
for the
far.
Colts. Yeah. In a situation that is more run heavy, than most people are going to give it credit for. This is a Jonathan Taylor, Anthony Richardson offense first, and then you have to work behind Michael Pittman. So, with that being said, where does he fall on the depth chart? You have Josh Downs, who showed signs and flashes of being a solid guy, solid, reliable target there. Alec Pierce hasn't lived up to the expectation that I thought he would. I do believe that he can jump Alec Pierce on the depth chart to be the other side, to be the other X on the other side. But what does the target share look like? What does your piece of pie look like in this offense, especially as a run-first offense that I believe it will be? Where do you fall where do you fall in the equation? I believe this is more of a best ball situation where this guy can thrive in certain games, certain areas, certain situations.
Yeah.
I don't have him as a guy pegged to be an elite breakout.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look at it, he serves a purpose with the team though. He had a 44% touchdown share in 2023. That's some crazy numbers. I don't think. I mean, show me guys had close to that, and I'll applaud him. That's absolutely insane. So he'll have his window. My thing is just like you're right. I mean, you figure rushing quarterback Anthony Richardson, who's pretty run heavy. Jonathan Taylor, probably still a top 5 back in this league as far as workhorse role goes. Michael Pittman's proven himself to this team since he came out as a rookie. It's gonna be tough on the cover window. I will say that as much as I'm like on the fence about Donny, I do think he can outbeat Josh Downs. I do. I agree with you that he's more of a best ball guy. Absolutely on the best ball radar for sure. I mean, it's obviously convenient. We can take all the boom games from a player and not worry about the bust games. But I think that's going to be where Mitchell sits as a asset on your team. Is you're going to start him and hope he has a 40, 50 yard catch, and it's maybe a score here and there. But the offense that he's given, I don't love the landing spot for Mitchell, and it doesn't help that I don't love him as a player, given he's got green flags, but there's also some red flags involved too.
There are, and that being, yes, he has strong hands. I believe his body control is the best part of his game. The way he contorts his body in midair is crazy. There's not many players that can do that. The fact that on top of his body control, his catch radius mentions in so well with that skill set. The thing that really shocked me was his struggles against contested catch situations in traffic. Really, really struggled in that area in my eyes. Something that, as a guy as big as he is, for a wide receiver, he's not like huge, but he struggled. He struggled in that area, and I thought it would be the opposite.
We'll see what he does. I don't expect a whole lot of him, to be honest with you. He's not somebody that I'm like stoked to be able to hit draft on immediately. But man, he's on. I don't know, man. I go back and forth with this guy every week, I feel like. But right now, I'm on the other side of the fence where I'm not too sold on Mitchell, given his opportunity with the team.
I like his talent. I like his player profile. I like his talent. I like what he brought to the Texas offense. I loved what he showed on the field. And I'll say this, I think he's relatively cheap when it comes to the Dynasty rookie draft. I do think there's red flags. We have discussed that. But it all depends. Some people love him. This was just one of those big question marks going into the draft was Adonai Mitchell. And the draft capital and the landing spot and the being uncoachable, quote unquote, uncoachable tag label that he has is rough.
Sure. Up next,
the head scratcher.
The biggest head scratcher maybe in a decade as far as draft capital goes. First pick, I was like, wow. We talking about Michael Penix here, who insanely, I don't think anybody even placed a bet on this to happen in Vegas. I mean, he goes
8
to the Falcons after they just signed Kirk Cousins to a pretty big deal. Now, given Cousins is coming off an Achilles, but I would say given the contract that they gave Kirk. The Falcons aren't worried about it. So for me, I don't mean to dwell too much on the football side of things, but like, why bring in Penix now when you just signed Kirk Cousins to a long-term deal?
So realistically, if Kirk Cousins plays well and rides out this 4-year contract, Michael Penix will be 28 years old before he steps on an NFL field for a full-time role.
Yeah.
That, on top of the fact that you have a 5-year control window with this, and you'll have to franchise tag him at that point going into it as the league average of the top three QBs in the league. That hurts. That hurts.
I get from like an owner standpoint, if you can get a guy that you believe in, you go get him no matter how long it takes. I mean, you look at Jordan Love with the Packers. I mean, they waited him out, and he just played his first season. He just finished top 5 quarterback in Dynasty. I mean, maybe that's what they're hoping for. But like you said before, he's already not young. He's already 24. We wait out this Kirk Cousins contract, given they can move him if they don't love what they're seeing, and they love what Penix is doing in the background. But that's not something I would love to project, given Kirk Cousins' history in the league. And I don't know. I'll say I like Penix. I do. I was kind of hoping for a better landing spot, somewhere where you can get in and play a little bit quicker.
So
lastly, he's got a great arm. The deep ball on him is absolutely insane. He showcased it all year.
Last thing I want to say about the contract, it is front-loaded. They do have outs in the back end of the contract, so there's that. But we talk about 24 years old with an extensive injury history in college. He is the most injury-labeled player that we will talk about in this process for the 4 rounds. He has an extensive injury history. Started in Indiana, and it got there. It was there in Washington, too. It was. Yes. But he has traits that I like as well. Great arm. High football IQ. Now, I know it's different over there in the Pac-12. Things are a little different than SEC and Big Ten lights. I get it. They are.
Yeah.
It's quote-unquote soft football of the NCAA. But 79th percentile QB with a clean pocket. Can't beat that. Does not get sacked. 96th percentile at avoiding sacks. And an 81.8 QBR. Those things do stand out. He threw for over 9,500 yards and 67 touchdowns in 2 years at Washington.
He was showing out at Washington. Rightfully so. He was trying to make a Heisman push.
He was.
He really was. Didn't get it done, nonetheless. He played a hell of a 2 years at Washington. And now you're looking at a guy who maybe could have started next season to a guy that maybe starts in 2 years. Worth the draft cap here?
No.
At the back of the second? No?
Everybody's going to say yes, and I get it. Super flex leagues, let's buy the QBs. Let's scoop all this up. But I don't like it.
Don't love it.
Don't love it. Because then when this happens, you have to stash him on your taxi. You get a 2-year window with a taxi. Some leagues you only get 1.
Yeah.
We're just eating up bench spots.
Yep. It becomes a legit question of how long are you willing to wait out Michael Penix?
Right. And if Kirk Cousins does not show out the form, then yes, you have a gem here. You do. But if he does,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't.
It's a tough one. I mean, obviously he's not starting this year. We can't really touch on what do you think he's going to finish because he's probably not starting unless some catastrophe happens to Kirk Cousins. So honestly, as sadly as we moved on from Michael Penix, I think that's really all we can say as of right now. Yeah. That being said, we're wrapping it up with one of my guys, Blake Corum. And the big thing with him is I love the talent. I think he's a patient runner. I think he can serve as a 3-down back in the league. But stuck behind Kyron Williams, who averaged the most yards per carry, most attempts per game at the running back position last year with 20. The final stretch of the games, he was carrying the ball 21.6 times in the last 6 games of the season. that he played. He didn't play week 18. That being said, is this Blake Corum situation more a move like they did last year with Tank Bigsby in Jacksonville, and then same with Charbonnet in Seattle? Is it just get one of these guys a backup role, or is this them saying, Kyron Williams, we got him for cheap. Let's try to move behind. Let's try to move on and bring in Blake Corum, who's a proven running back at the college level.
So the question when it came to Charbonnet,
yeah,
and the Tank Bigsby was, or the statement, I shouldn't say question, was they use significant draft capital on these guys. They have to have a role.
Right.
And that's why when I wrote this profile, the landing spot is weird. It's weird. Mm-hmm. Truly, there is no running back competition on this roster.
Nope.
At all.
It was Kyron Williams, all him at the end of that season with the Rams. They had nobody else to run the ball.
Cam Akers, gone.
See ya.
Darrell Henderson, not on the roster.
Injured, gone. Not even rostered anymore. No team.
Zach Evans. Where you at?
Yep.
So Blake Corum, I think, is a good running back.
Yeah.
A good running back in this class. I don't love this class. I don't think he's elite in aspects, but he's a good running back. The landing spot is weird. I will say that, yes, it is weird. We know how heavy Kyron Williams' workload was. You said on average over 20 carries per game, down the stretch over 21.6 carries per game. So there has to be a spell of relief in here for a running back like that.
Yeah.
And another example I like to use is Rachaad White. Rachaad White touched the ball over 350 times last year. I do not think Rachaad White will be standing in 2 years if he touches the ball 350 times in 2 more years. I do not think he will be able to stand.
That's fair. That can't even disrespect that. That's just the facts.
Kyron Williams needs help.
Yeah.
Everybody needs help. There's no running back that doesn't have help. And that's what Blake Corum what it feels like to me. I don't know who's the better running back. I know Kyron Williams didn't have the draft capital that Blake Corum did. I know that. But Kyron Williams took control of the backfield, and he did it with authority.
Yep. We'll see. I'm rooting for Blake. I don't really know what role he's going to play in this offense. I'm going to be eager to see come training camp and preseason to see if he can't sneak in there a little bit. But I honestly expect Kyron to kind of run this backfield again this year, and maybe even for the future. The
foot injury is the foot injury that Kyron Williams has and won't be ready until training camp does.
Yeah,
make it a little spicy.
It helps. It helps. Given it's been pushed off is not significant, but at the same time, any window for a rookie running back is a window. If he can get out there and prove himself on 3 practices just to get his foot in the door, you're making progress.
Yes, and I will say that's what makes it a little interesting here. So that I will say.
Yeah.
But other than that, is there anything you want to cover out here before we get out of here?
I'm excited for the next round. I think we're going to kind of compile rounds 3 and 4, and we're not going to go through player for player. We're going to highlight a couple of guys that me and Steve strongly believe in. We're going to hit that next week, hopefully.
Yes, hopefully. We will. We're going to do it. We're going to do it Monday.
We'll hit that next week.
Monday.
Back Monday for you guys to cover 3rd and 4th round guys that we think are at a good value. That being said, for those of you tuned in tonight, we appreciate you so much. That shout out to DFF for hosting this. Thank you guys for having us on, allowing us to have a platform to do what we do. Steven, anything else on your side?
Well, I just want to say this. As always, Dynasty Football Factory Network, thank you guys for allowing us to have this project to be – thank you for allowing us to have this project to be working on this and to continue to chase this dream that we have. We appreciate you guys, and we appreciate the opportunity here. To the people that are here tonight, we have 339 live viewers with us tonight. That's awesome. We appreciate you guys. Last week it was 70. Now we're at 339. I don't know what else to say. We appreciate everybody that was here tonight. And we hope, based off this, like, comment, most importantly, subscribe if you enjoyed the content tonight. That is our big goal, is to keep pushing this project and keep pushing for success.
Yep.
We did have a comment come in. We had 2. Corum was so good as a junior, but took a step back this year. A lot of wear and tear on those tires already. Yeah, the knee injury, he's battled some knee injuries in his time. Nothing crazy. The worst being an MCL tear. Other than that, you got bone bruises, knee bruises, things like that, like where he missed games. And it hurts. It does hurt. The biggest one was the MCL tear, though, for sure.
Yeah, that hurts. And I think Donovan Edwards coming in last season was kind of a big reason why he didn't play as well last year. But nonetheless,
amazing work. Yes, thank you. So like I said, like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe. If you guys enjoyed the content tonight, Ryan and I will be back Monday for the 3rd and 4th round. We're going to finish up this, and then we're going to get into a new series with our Dynasty work. Ryan, on that note, we're going to call it a night, and we are out.